Please join me now in welcoming R.J. Pittman, Chief Product Officer at eBay.
Good evening. How we doing? How we doing? We ready for the party at the Marquee tonight? We're getting close. Yes? Wyclef in the house. It's going to be good. It's good. It's a great club. It's a beautiful club. You're going to love it. I'm here to talk to you about something I'm personally very excited about. We're excited about this technology at eBay. It's called artificial intelligence. You're probably thinking, oh man, it's 5:40 and the guy's going to start talking about artificial intelligence. Man, I promise you it's going to be fun. And I think it's pretty interesting. Really what I'm after is solving this problem that's bothered me. I've been in commerce for 20 years. And for the life of me, I've yet to see great personalized shopping experiences at scale. I don't know how it continues to elude us, but we get better at a lot of different things. We're getting great at mobile commerce, but truly understanding the customer from the merchant or the marketplace side at scale and delivering great personalized experiences like we, the merchant, or we, the marketplace, know you so well, just doesn't exist the way we want to see it at scale. And we think there's huge, huge opportunities to really move forward. And we're leaning in on some technology around artificial intelligence, machine learning, predictive modeling to change that. And we've reached a really interesting tipping point, and we've reached that tipping point just in the last year. There's a lot of stuff to talk about here. So, let me put some context to this. Let's use eBay as an example of the kind of activity that we're seeing at scale and that we're trying to get our arms around with some of this science. Just to give you a bit of a flavor, the velocity on eBay is crazy. Every 4 seconds, we sell a smartphone. So I think we've probably sold, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 since I started talking. A watch is sold every 3 seconds. A dress in 6. Office supplies, even office supplies, every 12 seconds, we're selling a ton of office supplies. And this one, 3 car accessories every second are being sold on eBay. And even baseball cards, every 4 seconds, and the list goes on and on. The velocity is huge. People are buying things that you wouldn't imagine from their mobile devices on eBay. Cars, planes. You've probably heard all of that before. It's true. It happens every day on eBay. And it's not uncommon that people are spending over $100,000 buying an item from a mobile device. In total, that's a lot of people, products, and information that we have to get our arms around. Over 900 million live listings on eBay at any given time. And that inventory is turning over and changing so rapidly every day. We really need to throw a lot of science around this problem if we really want to sort it out and connect literally billions of products with hundreds of millions of customers every day. So, AI by itself isn't going to solve this problem. But pair it up with a couple more interesting technologies, something we call Commerce Fabric, and really start to harness and lean in to the power of the cloud, and we just might be able to change the game, and in fact, we believe we can. So I'm going to talk about each of these 3 things and show you how we're thinking about it at eBay and how we're going to bring this all together. Let's start with AI. It's kind of interesting The field of AI has been around for more than 30 years, and it's really starting to show some interesting signs of life. Where are we seeing AI today? We're starting to see it pretty much everywhere. It's in your thermostat, intelligently managing, monitoring your home heating and cooling efficiency. It learns. Every house is different. And with each house, you have different cooling and heating dynamics, and it figures it out and learns every day how you use your home, who's in your home, how to heat and cool it with the least amount of energy being used. It's amazing. It's in your smartphone, powering your personal assistants with the intention, at least, of making you more productive. And, with personal assistants like Siri and Google and Cortana, we're getting there. And one of the more interesting ones to me, you guys recognize this game in the picture here? This is Go. You guys know the game Go? It's amazing. Ancient Chinese game, 2,500-year-old, oldest board game around. It also happens to be 10 to the 100th times more complicated than the game of chess, and sort of a holy grail for AI scientists to build models in programs that could take on humans and actually win the game. And if you caught any of the press a few months ago, you'll see that Google's DeepMind did just that. They created a program called AlphaGo. It studied more than 30 million different moves, games, players, played all of the champions around the world. Then it started playing itself to reinforce its ability to play this super complicated game. And it culminated in a tournament in South Korea, playing the grand champion of the world, and won 4 out of 5 games. We have achieved a new plateau in understanding human intent and understanding reason that matches and even exceeds the capacity of humans. So what does this all mean for commerce? Well, where we're really interested in, what inspires me with the advances of things like AlphaGo, is getting back to human intent. What you see here up on the screen is something that we would call a natural language query. But you don't see a lot of those in commerce today. What you see are keyword searches. If you're in the online commerce business, you know as well as I do that the predominant form of starting a shopping journey begins with what? A keyword search. It's usually one word or two, and you boil it down for a particularly good reason. One, you want to be efficient. You want to get right to what you're at. I could do a search for a tent, but that cleaves off all of this valuable context that really could help a merchant or a marketplace better understand what you're really trying to do. So I could say camping tent, or I might say I'm going on a trip with my wife to Tahoe next month, and I need a tent. So what's interesting or different about this query is right in the words itself. First thing we know, I'm going with my wife, so I can already pre-select the kind of tent. Single-person tent, probably not going to be big enough. What I also know is that this, get that click. I know that this trip is in Tahoe, and Tahoe's at altitude, and things work differently at altitude, and that could come into factor in some of the merchandising and selection of supplies that I need for the trip. I also know that it's next month. So what do we know about next month? Middle of June. We know the temperature. We know a lot about what's going on in and around the area of Tahoe. That also can help me pick out more appropriate supplies. Now, with predictive modeling and these kind of advances in machine learning, like we saw with AlphaGo, we can go way beyond temperature, altitude, and number of people. There's loads of insights that we can mine from all sorts of data sources and bring it together in a relevant way to create highly personalized, highly contextualized shopping experiences and recommendations. Just look at a few of these here. You might never have occurred to you to look at the lunar calendar before going on the trip, realizing it's a new moon in the middle of June. What does a new moon mean? Well, at 10 o'clock at night, it's pitch black out. There's no moon. So getting a flashlight, for example, might come in handy. But there's more. We want to layer on everything we know about the customer. We should start paying attention to customer behavior and looking at the history of what customers do across not only our marketplace, but others. And then we can tailor the experience not just with all of those insights, but insights that mean something specifically to you. This is the part that I think gets really interesting. You can go well beyond a sort of predictable recommendation for a tent or a sleeping bag, and you can really start to get contextual and create these collections and these merchandising moments that are really delightful and that really transform your experience from just getting a tent to really making the most out of that camping trip. Whether it's a flash sale on flashlights or, maybe the AI is smart enough to understand that my marriage is going super well, wants to save me money. Instead of buying 2 single-person sleeping bags, goes for the double. Love that. Looking for that to happen one day. That's what it's about. That's what it's about, is clicking in and getting a level deeper and providing a much, much richer shopping experience. Now, the problem with natural language understanding and a nice, rich query or request like the one we just saw is that it's a lot of work. And we've been encoded and trained to reduce our intent down to a couple of keywords for efficiency. At the keyboard, nobody wants to type all of those words in, but back is the rise of voice and image input. Why? Because voice recognition has also hit a tipping point thanks to that same technology that's powering machine learning and predictive modeling and pattern matching. We can do amazing things, and you'll probably notice that today, that your Siri voice transcription is pretty darn good. If it does anything for you, it's great at converting your speech to text. And that gives us the ability to go back to comfortable, long and rich natural language queries that then an AI system can do a whole heck of a lot more with. The other one is image recognition. And this is as complicated or more. Decades of work have been going on in the field of image recognition, and we're also seeing some really interesting breakthroughs, and especially for those unique products or that awesome pair of shoes that you saw that you have no idea whose they are, or a tent that you just love and you think would be perfect for the trip, but you don't know the brand, you don't know begin to how to describe the thing. This is where a picture is worth 1,000 words, so use it. And we can use this technology at scale to produce remarkable results. For a company like eBay, we're in 190 countries. And so translating the term camping tent into 10 different languages is necessary, but not sufficient. In the same game, what we need to be doing is ensuring that we capture the original intent and the original meaning of that request. So that's a very different type of translation, and until it gets good enough, it's virtually useless. And this is not a technology that's on the horizon. This is here today. And we have been powering our global marketplace with rich machine translation that allows a customer here in the United States to put his product up for sale, any merchant or individual, and market it to all of those countries, and we can handle the machine translation of that listing for them and for that item automatically. And it leads to tremendous, tremendous conversion and business growth opportunities. So, next up, I want to talk about this thing called Commerce Fabric. But before I do, we've got to explore a very interesting, I might even call it an epidemic, that's working its way through the mobile industry today. It's called app fatigue. You might think it's controversial, but it's real. And what is app fatigue? It's pretty simple. More people are spending more time in fewer apps. We indeed have hit a saturation point. The days of hundreds of apps on your smartphone used to be an interesting, curious exercise. This is happening across all demographics, all generations, and particularly so with millennials and Gen Zs. So And the number's getting smaller and smaller. So what are these apps that people are spending all their time in? Messaging platforms, first and foremost. And there's some others we'll talk about in a second. But this is a primary, fundamental mode of communication. And the likes of Snapchat, Messenger, Facebook, WhatsApp, and all around the world. In Asia, WeChat, Viber, QQ, dominant forces of engagement today in mobile. And what are they doing? They're getting in front of all of these other apps. But so too are the native platforms. Siri and Cortana and Google are getting in front of you with the microphone. They're getting in front of apps. They're getting in front of websites and intercepting those requests with natural language input, helping you get what you need. And it's even moving out to devices, where you no longer even need a visual display on a device with an Internet of Things appliance to take a voice input and conduct a transaction or begin a conversation. Even the device market is entering the game and starting conversations with all of our customers. So what's the answer? I was talking to some people about this earlier today, and they said, well, so what does this mean? If my e-commerce business is all built around a single app, am I hosed? And depends. You might be, but you might not be. There's an angle to this, and this is this thing we call a commerce fabric. The great news is all of these guys, all of these platforms are opening up and giving everybody the opportunity to go reach all of these customers where they're spending their time, and doing so in a manner that is consistent with the experience of that platform. So if you're going to show up in a chat platform like Messenger, you better look the part and you better figure out how to create a great experience. And if that's a commerce experience, well, that's not automatic. There's work to do there to really make it great. But if you get it right, it's huge untapped opportunity. You saw the size of these platforms. By far, this is the fastest growing category. Again, for all demographics, but especially for those younger generations, and that's where we want to be. So that's Fabric. I want to talk about the cloud for a second, because all this stuff that I just showed you is almost not achievable without serious computing horsepower behind the scenes, because just about good enough is basically unusable when we're talking about doing something great with machine learning or doing something great in artificial intelligence or really nailing that personalized shopping experience. And so we've been looking at this for a while. And with big companies, it's a curious thing. They almost seem afraid to talk about the cloud or admit going to the cloud or coming out and saying, I've gone to the cloud. But we shouldn't be. We shouldn't have some of those fundamental fears that I'm putting my data at risk, or I'm losing control of my company, or I'm losing control of my key assets. Because most of these cloud service providers do a way better job than most of us do in managing all of that information much better and much more performant. So these are 4 areas of the cloud that I personally love. This is what gets me excited. First one is we talk about the hybrid cloud. So if you haven't picked up the vernacular around hybrid cloud, the great thing there is it gives you optionality. You should be thinking about how you can harness the power of a Google Cloud, for example, and the millions of servers that they have available to you and the unlimited data capacity that they have at super fast speeds to run critical business applications for you that can in turn create great customer experience. You can experiment. You can work your way in. And it's incredibly empowering and enabling. The other one is just a sheer compute capacity. So you saw that major achievement in AI with AlphaGo beating the world champion 4 games out of 5. That was run in the Google Cloud on 2,000 CPUs and 300 GPUs. And GPUs are particularly well suited for running highly parallel processes like those in machine learning. And the good news is that Google has millions of CPUs and GPUs to share and to spare to power all sorts of things. And by and large, we don't need quite that much computing capacity to take on something as complex as Go. So tremendous, tremendous opportunity. Storage is becoming, a great commodity. This is wonderful for us. We should be all over this. It hasn't been cheaper, and in many cases, it's free to store huge amounts of data in the cloud. But what's great about it is you can put it in these data stores that are faster than any database you've ever used before. And trust me, your customers care about that. When you add all of this up, you're able to provide a performance level that's 10x what you do today. And unless you're in the business of building data centers and building big infrastructure, and that's part of your competitive advantage, I can promise you that that is money that's better spent working on what your core business is and what you're great at. My favorite piece out of all of this is elasticity. So anybody in here who runs a retail business, has an online store, has mobile apps, it's a seasonal business. There's holidays, there's flash sales, there's spikes. We've seen what happens when big retailers and big e-commerce companies max out capacity. It's a disaster. I mean, having downtime in those critical hours has huge implications to your brand, your customer trust, and big loss of business from a revenue perspective. And it's still happening all over the place. But you rarely hear that happening with people that are running and powering big parts of their infrastructure in the cloud. And elasticity allows you to dial up and down the horsepower you need when you need it. So you're not paying for anything more than you need. So in the slow months, you're not sitting there with idle infrastructure that's costing you money and depreciating. All right, so let's just bring it back. Each one of these technologies, in my view, today represent huge, huge implications for changing the landscape in commerce. They already are changing the landscape, each one of them by themselves. Putting them together, I think, creates some really, really interesting game changers. You want to 10x your business? Take the cloud seriously, make some investments, get in the game now. Everybody is, and you don't want to be left behind. You can build incredibly performant, ultra-fast, ultra-stable experiences for your customers, and trust me, they'll love it. You want to be where your customers are, you want to get more customers, then start weaving your own commerce fabric. And we all have to get better at understanding truly who our customers, especially in the digital realm. Especially in the digital realm. It still pains me a great deal to see that we just don't have that sort of white glove capability at scale. I'm seeing it in great pockets around very narrow categories and verticalized businesses and highly curated commerce platforms, and that's awesome. Solving it at scale is where the action is, and if we get this right, that's creating that highly personalized experience for billions of customers and connecting them to billions of people. And I think together, we can move this entire commerce category forward in some really, really exciting ways that delight our customers. That's part of the mission of eBay, and that's what I'm excited to be working on over the next couple of years. So hopefully you take something away from this that helps in joining in that mission. Thanks, guys, and see you at Wyclef's party.
Thank you, RJ.